Do you live in California and you're thinking about making a move to the St. George, Utah area? In this video, we're going to talk about some of the things I've learned about the differences between California and here as I've been helping clients relocate to the area. Hi, I'm Shari Harris with Fathom Realty, and I've been able to help a lot of people relocate to St. George from California, and they've been amazing. I have been so impressed with the people I have met. And so sometimes you do hear from the locals, we don't want any more people from California here. Just know that not everybody feels that way. You might even see some of that in the comments below. But I was just actually helping some clients over the weekend from Louisiana, and they'd been worried after reading those comments, but commented that as they were going around town and meeting people, that everybody had been so nice. So I was happy to hear that. So like I was saying, some of my clients that have come from California are such a huge blessing to our community. And so I just want to kind of share with you some of the differences, because some things about this area may not appeal to you and might be a bit of a culture shock if you're coming from California. Let's start with the traffic. That's a simple one. All my clients that have come from California can't believe how short their commute is to work and that they're not stuck in traffic. They absolutely love it. If there's a delay due to heavy traffic, kind of that rush hour traffic, it's usually only like 5 or 10 minutes. It's rarely like a super big deal. If you want to see where the traffic is the worst when you're visiting, go over by the Washington, St. George border by Costco and Walmart and drive around there. That will kind of give you an idea of congested traffic looks like here. And you'll probably laugh if you're from California, but it's not that big of a deal. One thing is the weather can be so shocking, and I think this really depends on where you're coming from in California. If you've been living closer to the coast, you're used to those kind of cooler temperatures or more even temperatures, whereas here in St. George, you're going to have days during the summer that are over 100. A lot of days actually over 100, and some even over 110. And then you may be surprised to find out in the winter that the temperature can get below freezing in the evening sometimes. And so even though it gets really a mild winter compared to a lot of areas that get a bunch of snow, since we don't really get any snow, it still can be colder than they expect. And so, but if you've lived in California away from the coast, you've probably felt some of those crazy high heats that we have, and you may not feel so different when you relocate here. Another thing is kind of the greenery. We're a desert, so we have the beautiful red rock, and some green next to it is absolutely breathtaking, but we don't have as much greenery as you would find along the coast in California, so some people miss that greenery as well as that salty air from the ocean, and so that is some things that are missed. But like I said, if you go further into California, I know that our landscape is probably quite similar to some areas. So looking at politics, I'm just going to touch on this briefly. Utah is a red state and California is a blue state. So Utah, you will have more conservative feelings about things, and more liberal in California. So that can be a bit of a shock. I know that we have people that feel all the things on both sides, so but you will see that we lean more conservative. Another thing that is sometimes concerning is we do have a dominant religion in this area, and that's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormons. And so I often get asked, will I be accepted? I mean, there's still the predominant religion, but there are so many people who are not members of that church, and typically the members of the church are super welcoming. Like I would think any religion, you're going to find some people who are more welcoming than others, but that has been a concern. Will my kids be able to play with the other kids and all that stuff? And my experience has been that most people are super welcoming and include everyone. Another thing mentioned is how clean it looks here. There's not a lot of garbage laying around or graffiti. on the side of walls or buildings or bridges. And so it's a bit surprising to them, and they're like, how do you keep up with this? And I do think our cities do a good job of keeping up with things, as well as I think a lot of people just take pride of this area and take care of it. But we do have our garbage sometimes. But I will say, from my vacationing in California, there is a different feel, and not in all areas in California, but I have noticed even through the years as I've been vacationing there, an increase in the graffiti and garbage in some of my favorite areas, which is so sad to me. So I hope that with all of our growth here, that we just keep on top of that and don't lose the beauty and the cleanliness that we have here. The lack of diversity is also something that's brought up, but it's changing. We have so many people moving here, and that's really expanding the diversity of the different races and ethnicities in our area. And so that's been really great to see all that growth. One other thing could be the stores. We don't maybe have as many options or as many restaurants maybe as you would find in some of your cities in California, not everywhere. But we do have Vegas, which is, Las Vegas is like 2 hours away. So some people go there to do their shopping, I don't know, food from other cultures and stuff. So though we have had more and more restaurants popping up that are just great. So that's been expanding, and there's a lot. If you drive around, you will see that they are building commercial areas like crazy. So lots of businesses coming this way, and that is expanding. So kind of depending where you're coming from California, it could feel a little different. Have to drive a little bit further to get to certain restaurants or stores that you've come to love, and some we won't have here at all. Though we have a Five Below, and I've heard that started or came from California originally, so we do have one of those now. One thing I also want to point out is sometimes people think that all of Utah is the same, and so they think they're moving to St. George to experience very defined 4 seasons and a snowy winter, and are shocked that we don't get snow in the winter and we're so hot. And just kind of the weather of the northern side of the state does not carry to our little pocket of warmth. And we are sort of off by ourselves a little bit. So like if you go to northern Utah, you've got Salt Lake with tons of like surrounding towns, and it just kind of blends into Utah County with all the towns there, and there's just so much more happening there. Bigger freeways, more stores, more people, more traffic, all of that. And so sometimes they picture that all of Utah is that way, and we're not. We're kind of our own little area here by the Arizona border. So something to keep in mind. And to clarify on the heat, it is a dry heat. So I know when it's humid and hot, it can feel so much hotter. And so some people are like, oh, this dry heat isn't so bad. You can actually breathe. Whereas when it's humid and high, you can't. So that can be a huge difference as well. If you're from California and you've moved to the St. George area, I would love to hear what differences you noticed, the pros and cons. Leave that in the comments below, and I'll talk to you later.